we're tracking another handful of stories related to how AI is reshaping work. So, first, CNN reported that blue collar workers like plumbers and electricians are increasingly turning to tools like ChatGPT to draft estimates, write customer emails, even troubleshoot complex jobs. So, they kind of highlight how ChatGPT and other tools started out as white collar assistants, but are now becoming kind of universal coworkers that are actually helping blue collar workers bridge skill gaps and save time on site. And they cited all these great customer stories we'll link to in the show notes, how some of these firms are doing that. Meanwhile, Bloomberg has reported that Klarna's CEO is once again talking up the impact of AI, warning of an AI jobs shock, and saying most companies are unprepared for the wave of disruption that is coming. And last, Matthew Call, a researcher writing in the Wall Street Journal, notes pretty extensively how his research shows that AI is already widening the divide between top performers who can harness it and everyone else who can't. And his thesis, which is stated right in the article, is, quote, workplace tensions and resentment will rise if top performers benefit more than everyone else from AI tools. Now, Paul, that last piece of the jobs picture this week kind of stood out to me. It seems like we've got here a few examples of how AI is widening the gap, maybe the economic gap, the skills gap between companies and individuals who master it and those who don't. What do you think?
So I'll come back to that one, Mike, because I'd like to talk about that one for a minute. The consumer services stuff, I think, is massive. So this idea of building smarter back offices for plumbers, electricians, whatever, any contractor, just from personal experience, like anybody who owns a home and has to deal with contractors, it's so hard to find a great contractor who great at the labor, who also runs a great business and is very customer friendly in their operations and technology. And so the idea that you could take these very talented laborers who can do the work and enable them to have smarter back offices, the companies that figure that out are going to do extremely well. And there are a lot of those kind of verticals where you're going to have a few companies that solve it, and then everybody else is going to, have a very difficult time. So I'm very bullish on that. I think that companies that do that are going to be a big play. I would imagine private equity may drive that, because that's one of those things where it's like a standard private equity playbook. Go in, buy up a bunch of, verticals, pick a, bunch of companies in one vertical, and then just apply smarter tech and unlock 20, 30, 40% gains and efficiency and 20% in margin. So yeah, that's really interesting to me. The Klarna thing, so their CEO says things in ways that I wouldn't necessarily say them, but like I think we're on a very similar page with this stuff. So there was a quote in here, said, I feel a lot of my tech bros are being slightly not to the point on this topic. I think there's a massive shift coming to knowledge work. And it's not just in banking, it's in society at large. So this was when he was being interviewed on Bloomberg. He said, society will have to figure out what we are going to do because new jobs will be created, yes. But in the short term, that doesn't help the Brussels translator. He's not going to become a YouTube influencer tomorrow. Says a pretty specific example, but you get the point. It's like all these jobs that are coming, like they're not coming tomorrow. And the people who aren't needed right now are going to have a tough go. And then he did talk about the fact they went from 7,400 down to 3,000, and maybe they corrected one direction, and now they're sort of bringing more people back into customer service and stuff. But at the same time, he's not changing the overall tune, which is these jobs are going away way faster than they're coming back. Now, on the last one, Mike, that you talked about, this idea of like superstars benefiting more from AI. This is a very relevant topic, because the first day of MACON last week, we actually had a meeting of our marketing AI industry council. So there's about 30 or so people on this council. We had about 20 in person, and the entire focus was on the impact of AI on talent. And this is actually one of the debates we were having. We sort of looked at 9 specific core questions about where we're going with AI's impact on talent. By the way, we're going to be publishing a report later this year with key insights from that council. So we'll be bringing that to light. But overall, this is the debate: is if we give AI to, like, let's assume this perfect rollout scenario where we go get Copilot or ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever it is, we implement it into our system, we give it to everyone, we train them on how to properly use it, we give them personalized use cases. Like, we do all the things we should do to properly roll out AI technology. Who benefits most? The A players who apply this to have superpowers and can now do 2, 3x the work they were doing before, maybe more in some cases, or the B and C players who, let's just say, are like the average employee, and maybe they like kind of adopt it, but maybe not fully. What happens? Like, the A players are just like, I'll just do their job. Like, if they're not going to get this done, I can do their job for them tomorrow. So, like, let's say you're in marketing and someone in customer success isn't doing the thing you needed them to do. You needed something from them. Maybe it's a report or a briefing or something, and they're just like dragging their feet, not get it done. And you're like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to do it tonight. And you go in and you write the report with ChatGPT in 20 minutes. That probably was going to take them 2 or 3 hours. And then you just email it to them like, hey, here you go. It's like, it's going to create so much friction between, there's always been friction between the A players, the superstars, and the non-A players. But now we're talking about dramatic increases, because if you have a generalist A player who knows they can dabble in sales and operations and HR, like enough to be dangerous, and now all of a sudden they can do it on demand because they can just call up ChatGPT to help them. It is going to create some serious conflicts and challenges. And this research is saying these A players are actually the ones who are going to benefit most. There was a study that Ethan Mollick, I know, was a part of in like 2023,
Yeah.
I think, like with GPT-4, where they're like, no, it's actually going to like level it up. And the average people are going to increase like 40% in their capabilities, while the A players will increase 14%. And I don't dispute that. Like, I guess the average person, if they actually apply AI fully, could level up pretty significantly. But I think the greater likely outcome is that average employees are going to remain average. They're not going to work harder than they need to work. They'll definitely use the tools, but probably as shortcuts and a crutch, not as a thinking partner to become better. Like, if they wanted to be better, they'd have read more books and worked harder to begin with. Like, I don't know. So the B players will be B plus players probably. And like, I think that's the scenario, is like, yeah, they're going to get incrementally better, but this is a human condition thing. It's, you're being given tools. Are you going to use them to become great at your job? And the reality is there's just a whole bunch of people who don't care to be great at their job. So I think that's, I don't know, it's like a really interesting scenario, but I could see a lot of the people who are taking full advantage of this. They're going to be very valuable within the companies, but they're also going to get very frustrated with the people who aren't taking advantage of the tools.
Yeah, and the advantages that the A players are gaining are also compounding over time. This stuff doesn't stop, right? I wonder how quickly, even in, let's say, a B or C player that is adopting the technology fully, like, are they going to be pressing the limits of it, innovating enough to keep up with that widening gap?
Yeah, and as a CEO, I can tell you, like, point blank, I spent the whole weekend thinking about this, not because of this article. I was thinking about like our hiring plans and how, like, do I hire within these specific departments? And I think I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but like, it's still in my brain a lot. Or do I just go hire like people with like 15 years experience, 10 years experience, who are super like excellent critical thinkers, very curious, strong, like imagination, like good at innovation. And do I just give them the tools and say, hey, we're just going to go solve it all? Like, I'm going to get 5 or 10 of these people and we're going to go solve customer success and sales and operations and HR. Like, we don't have to necessarily hire a bunch of specialists in each department. Let's just go get some generalists, give them the tools, and then let's just go, like, first principles. Let's just build a smarter company from the ground up. And there's honestly, like, I'm starting to feel like that's what I lean toward doing is don't go hire a bunch of specialists, just hire a bunch of generalists who are super motivated to figure out what these tools are really capable of, and then give them the autonomy to go do it. I don't know. Like, that's what we did at the agency. Just like, they were just consultants. Like, we could do anything. And I think that might be the play, but I don't know. I need to think about this more. This is all like Saturday, Sunday thinking like, on a jog or at the gym. Like my mind is wandering. Like I couldn't take the whole weekend off mentally as much as I
Mm.
tried.